Real Progress in Action. Today was the Wisconsin primary. I have Andre here. He's actually a Wisconsin voter and a volunteer, or do you work with Our Revolution?
I used to be a volunteer, but now I'm a staff member with our Wisconsin Revolution.
All right, cool. Well, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, Andre?
Yeah, so basically, I got activated with politics in about 2016, right after the the apocalypse happened. But so that kind of activated me to get in politics, and then I started getting into various groups, and I worked on my first campaign in 2018, and then I've been pretty much active in politics ever since. And basically just doing political activism, organizing, pretty much doing that. Mostly fighting money in politics, corruption in politics. Um, if you know Wisconsin, you know Wisconsin is kind of like the birth child of money in politics and dirty money. We had Scott Walker, the Koch brothers, and I mean when you see the corruption in Wisconsin, it really does get a little bit depressing, considering uh, how much money comes into the state, uh, how many elected officials take big money from Koch brothers and all type of dark money. It's really depressing, but I mean, I've just been continuing fighting against the corruption on the Democratic and the Republican side, and that's just been my fight. And now I'm doing that with our Wisconsin Revolution. So it's been a fun journey, depressing but fun.
Well, that's the thing though, right? You can take these things and you can go either way with it. So you can just be completely depressed and like duck out and be like, I'm not going to be involved or whatever. Or you can take and you can be like, you know what, I'm going to fight against it, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think you made the right choice. I mean, my opinion. So
Yeah.
what's your role with Our Revolution?
Yeah, so if you've ever been to Wisconsin, I'm not assuming everyone has who listen to this, but I'm the Southeast Regional Organizer. So basically, that starts at Manitowoc County. So that's kind of like a little bit south of Green Bay, down to Kenosha County. So that's an hour or two north of Chicago. So that gives you kind of geographical perspective. So what my role is basically to bring in new membership, grow the chapters, and also, kind of put forth a regional plan for those members and try to help build up those chapters. It's been a lot tougher than I thought, not necessarily because organizing, but because of the coronavirus situation.
Oh, yeah.
So it's been really difficult to get in contact with a lot of people. A lot of people aren't responding, or they're afraid to get out the house, things like that. So, and those who do like getting out the house aren't very tech savvy, so they don't really understand like the internet that much. So, it's been a lot tougher than I initially thought. I'm like, oh, it's the internet. Everybody has internet. But no. So, so that's my role as our Wisconsin Revolution staff member. But yeah, it's been a challenge because of the due to the coronavirus
Mhm.
situation.
Yeah, all around. I mean, absolutely. So let's talk about this primary. I mean, so the crazy thing about this primary, and I'm sure that everyone knows at this point, I'm not telling anybody anything new, but we're in the middle of a pandemic. We
Mhm.
have coronavirus, COVID-19 is spreading rapidly in this country. I mean, we almost hit 2,000 people in a space of 24 hours today. I actually checked this before. I don't know if it's been updated since, but Wisconsin, the state of Wisconsin is at 92, I believe, and I think 15 of those were today in the last 24 hours. So as this insanity is happening. Now, let me actually ask a question. So, as this insanity is happening, we're having a primary, which is just insane. But let me ask a question. Where is Wisconsin at with? I know, for example, I'm from New Hampshire. We have a stay-at-home order. So all essential businesses are closed, and it's very. I would say it's pretty seriously regulated, at least within my sphere, from what I see. What is the state of things in Wisconsin as far as like what has restrictions and on account of the coronavirus?
It's pretty similar. So the Governor Evers did put out a statement for a stay-at-home order. The only thing that can stay open are essential businesses. So, grocery stores, medical centers, things like that. But oddly enough, the liquor stores are still open. So I guess that's pretty
Same,
essential.
same here.
So, I guess that's essential. But so it's pretty much locked down. You don't see as many people out anymore unless you're going to like grocery stores and things like that. And obviously essential workers. So it feels a little bit different. So when you go out, it doesn't seem the same that it usually does. You're seeing the people who are out wearing a lot more masks. So it is being taken more serious. But I feel like it was a little bit delayed in the reaction to it because initially when the essential businesses were uh, kept open, like there was no precautions. Employees weren't wearing gloves or masks or things like that. They were just working regularly as business as usual, which was pretty concerning to me, considering they're around the most people.
Yeah.
So it's been a little bit weird now that it seems like they're taking precautions. So I haven't been going out myself too much, but I went to Walmart today because I had to go, and they had like some line things built up so people can come in 6 feet apart, and people were wearing gloves, the employees. So I guess they're taking precaution now, but I hope it's not like too late. I guess because they should have already had these precautions in place.
Well, how long has it been since they've had like the stay at home and the essential businesses kind of thing?
Honestly, maybe a week or two. Honestly, time is blurring for me.
Yeah.
Honestly, today I almost forgot it was Tuesday because I voted absentee ballot, so I had no idea what day it was. I'm just like living in the twilight zone.
So let's talk about kind of the process
Mhm.
as far as the whole decision making with this primary, because it seems like it kind of went back and forth. I feel like on top of on top of what actually ended up happening and that the coronavirus making it dangerous for people to go and inhibiting things like that, there was also a lot of confusion before because it kind of went back and
Mhm.
forth. So what happened, I think the governor.
Mhm. So where it started at is well, for example, our Wisconsin Revolution and other many other groups were putting pressure on the governor to postpone the election,
Mhm.
but most of his statements were, well, I can't really postpone the election because it would break the state constitution and it would be going against the law. So I was seeing also reports that, well, the Republicans like Fitzgerald and Robin Ross were the leaders of the House and Senate were saying, hey, well, that's not necessarily true because Evers didn't even try to come talk to us about holding a session to actually, postpone the election. But then Evers called a special election like 2 days ago, and the Republicans didn't show up. And then Evers finally went and said, hey, all right, we're going to delay the election. And then, so it's kind of it's been a weird thing because it's like, okay, did you always feel that you couldn't take this order and you just did it because you were just kind of doing it or going into the pressure? It was really weird. But in my impression, he knew he could have did it, called for the delay whenever he wanted. He was just trying to do it at the last minute. Maybe because he was trying to avoid the Supreme Court issue.
Hmm.
Maybe not. Maybe he was just mounting to pressure. But if that was his excuse, he would have never called for the delay. So it's really confusing. But then after that, they called for the delay, and then the Republicans challenged it, and then got through the Supreme Court. So the elections were back on. So as like a voter, that's really confusing because you're hearing from the governor that the election's off, and then you're hearing the next 5 minutes or next hour or so that the election is back on. So you're like, wait, is it on or off? Based on which reports you see, you might not even show up to the polls if you
Right.
didn't cast the absentee ballot. So I mean, it was a really confusing time. Even for me, it's like I had to stay in the loop constantly just to understand what was happening. So if you're not like a political junkie like myself, you were probably just going to stay home
Right.
considering the COVID-19 issue. So it's been a really confusing time. So, I mean, from the outside looking in, it just looks like they were both playing political games. Um, on a federal level, it looks like the Democrats just wanted to hurry up and get the primary over with because they want to hurry up and get Joe Biden through. And on the state side, they really want to get that extra state Supreme Court seat. So that's why they wanted to push it through, because they want that extra seat. Um, and they know with the low voter turnout, which this election is going to be a low voter turnout, they have a better chance of winning the state Supreme Court seat. So it's really both on political games and political moves, but I don't know how it's going to end up, because it's really weird, because the coronavirus is more going to affect older people, yet I'm not sure if they're going to show up to the polls. But then younger people just don't vote anyway, so I have no idea what's going to happen.
Well, I
So
just
I don't
checked
know. It's
earlier to
really
see
weird.
what the results were, and it says we're not going to find out until Monday. And I'm going, there's going
Yeah.
to be like there are no results until Monday.
Well, that's because the absentee ballots were so backed up. Because another thing that happened is we had an extended absentee ballot situation where we were supposed to be able to turn them in at a longer date, but that ended up being challenged in court and got refuted. So basically, some of the people who thought they were going to be able to get their absentee ballot and turn it in later aren't going to get it and can't vote. So they might have not showed up to the polls either, because they're like, hey, well, I still got time to get my absentee ballot. I already requested it. And we're also seeing reports that people who requested their absentee ballot never even got their absentee ballot because there was just too many requests. And so the people who didn't, they either had to just stay home because they didn't want to go out and wait in lines, or they waited in line and risk getting sick. So the whole thing is just a complete mess. We had no business actually holding an election today.
So no, let me just kind of on a side note, because one thing that I had heard before is that Wisconsin has a serious issue with gerrymandering, right? So when we talk about this, and so what I had heard was that over 50% of the population voted Democrat, but yet it ended up being well over 50% were Republican. So it kind of it didn't reflect what the people had voted because of gerrymandering, right? So it's kind of interesting that while we're talking about specifically right now, the way that kind of ties in for me is that it was challenged by the Republicans. So it seems like this kind of court action and whatnot is coming from the Republicans, who didn't even didn't even get a majority in the state anyway. So they don't even have the support of 50% of the population of Wisconsin, yet they have the power and they have enough people to be able to challenge it in that way to change how this is happening. Am I right on that or wrong?
Yeah, you're correct. So if you look at all the statewide elections, the Democrats won the governor's house. They won the lieutenant governor. They won the state treasurer. They won the state attorney. So they basically won every statewide office available. Um, Yet they still had minority in the House and the Senate, which is kind of an odd thing. And if you actually look at the voting percentage, they actually got the more of the vote too. So I mean, it makes you think like, wait, how is that even possible? Yet they only picked up one seat, literally in the whole, out of all the seats that were up for election, they won one seat, and that was in, I think, Waukesha. I think, yeah, Waukesha County or something like that, and that's normally a red seat, so it was a surprise that one got flipped. So it really doesn't matter. The whole gerrymandering thing is complete utter nonsense, that we have a minority party ruling and they're doing all this. I mean, if you look at what happened after that, after the Democrats won the governor's chair, they tried to do the lame duck session, in which they were trying to put through all these all these court judges through and pass these extra laws to restrict the governor's powers and things like that. So I mean, it's all about power. They don't care about what the will of the voters are. They don't care about what's going on in the state. It doesn't matter. It's I don't like saying this word because it's kind of taking it far, but I feel like it is that far. But we're living in a fascist state.
Mm.
there's no way we're living in a democratic representative state. We're living in a fascist state by all metrics. It's tough. I don't know. That makes it more depressing. But I mean, I'm hoping with the census coming up in 2020 that they can actually fix the maps. But the maps are drawn by the state legislators, so it's like I
Right.
don't know. But I think the governor does have power to veto the map if he doesn't like it. So I don't. I really don't know what's going to happen there.
A lot of states are going towards independent redistricting commissions. I guess I shouldn't say a lot of states, but I know a lot of states are fighting for it, not necessarily having a lot of success and stuff like that. But hopefully, because it's amazing that you can pick your own voters. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean that's just what it is. You pick your own voters, especially with, you know, um, computers and the savviness and things like that. I mean, it's just so easy to say, okay, we'll just carve it up this way and get what we want. But what's interesting to me is to kind of see how this plays out in so many different ways, right? So anyway, just to see kind of the
Mm-hmm.
long tentacles of what gerrymandering does, and I feel like this is kind of one of those things that that has a lot to do with it. So let's talk about the polls itself. Um, you
Mm-hmm.
did your absentee voting, so you didn't actually vote at a
Mm-hmm.
polling place today. What's the word on the street? Did you hear from people around town?
So it's really weird. So like I already suggested to you, a lot of people who requested an absentee ballot never got it.
Mm,
So there are only two choices: were to stay home and not get their vote counted, or risk going to the polls. And I did hear a lot of feedback on Facebook about people having to show up to the polls because they never received their absentee ballot. And then this is one of the real frustrating things to me that I'm about to bring up. Milwaukee normally has almost about 200 polling places. Today they had five. And Madison, which is more of a whiter city, but it still has minorities in the city, they had 66 polling places open today. Now, Milwaukee has a much bigger population than Madison, so why would they have more polling places? Milwaukee has the highest percentage of a minority population. So it makes you think, was this part of a voter suppression act? I'm not sure. I can't say for sure, but looking at it on face value, it doesn't make sense. So, and then you have to think about it from a health standard. Um, you want more people packed into smaller places when we should be practicing social distancing. It
right,
doesn't make sense. If anything, it would make sense to open more polling places.
right.
Even if you don't, and then their excuses, well, we don't have enough medical supplies to do that. Well, don't hold the election. That's the only logical conclusion. If you don't have the medical supplies or the equipment to open more polling places, we should be practicing social distancing, then don't hold the elections. But it doesn't make sense. How can a smaller city like Madison have more polling places open than Milwaukee, which is more at risk at coronavirus, considering the minority population doesn't have nearly as much access to healthcare. They don't
Mm,
have nearly as many like okay, say if a huge outbreak does break out in Milwaukee, which it's already shown that it does or has happened. Um, Milwaukee doesn't have enough ventilators. Milwaukee doesn't have enough beds in hospitals. Milwaukee doesn't have it's not prepared for anything for an outbreak. So if this election holds, and I hope this doesn't happen, there are going to be mass graves in Milwaukee, and it's going to be terrible because a lot of these people they might have their mask on, they might be wearing gloves, but people don't understand this is an airborne situation, and those masks are very. And I've watched like videos on this. Um, they say you need the N95 mask that cover up your face and seals your face.
mm,
The masks that people are wearing, they're loose masks. That means that anything can get out, and if you touch your face or anything, you can still get sick. So those masks are more for comfort or peace of mind than actual protection. So people can still get sick even if they have those masks on. So it's literally gonna be pretty bad. And I hate to bring this up, but I seen a little tweet from the Onion, and they said, "Hey, you know how you get those little stickers, the I voted stickers?" And the Onion said, "Hey, people are getting I voted gravestones after voting today," and that's literally what the outcome might be. Like, oh, I had to vote and die, and that's it's a sad reality. I'm just hoping that, I mean, I have family members today that didn't go vote because they were like, well, I'm not risking it, and they didn't understand the absentee ballot process. Uh, so it's
I don't
it's
blame them. I
it
don't
doesn't make
blame
sense. Yeah. So I mean, it was already suppression, voter suppression by nature, but then they're just doubling down with the polling places, the absentee ballot issue, and the Supreme Court. I mean, this is a banana republic at this point. I mean, I don't know what's going on. We have a rogue state, nation, whatever you want to call it. It's bad.
Now, I mean, was there any justification put forward? Like, I just can't imagine, like, what would be I don't know, what would be the defense of it? What would be the justification? So, like, when the Republicans, challenged it, was it just saying, was it not, um, for this situation, they were just saying this goes against our state constitution, or
I think that was mainly their argument. I didn't really look into the argument because honestly, things been happening so fast.
yeah.
Because I've been trying. My focus has been to trying to educate people on how they can vote and where they can vote. So I honestly haven't even had time to look at the details on it. But my only assumption is that that's their only argument is that, oh, it goes against state constitutional law. But even if that's the case, I mean, it doesn't matter. You can subvert that in the time of a health crisis. I
Right.
mean, are you going to send people to vote if it's the fucking black plague? Excuse my language, but I mean, it's like, well, I'm sorry, it's against state law. Who cares? If you go outside, you're going to die. I mean, what? So, I mean, I really, even if you try to justify it based on law, it still doesn't make sense. So, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I just hope that I don't know. I just hope that everybody's okay. It's so scary. Hey, thank you for coming and talking to me.
Yeah, no
It feels
problem.
so weird, like, because it really is, it's somber, it's serious. This is something that, anyway, it's not right, and I hope that, um, it's inevitable. People are going
Yeah,
to be hurt by it. Unfortunately, people are going to be hurt by it. So
yeah,
thank you for coming and talking to us today.
yeah.
And thank you for all you do with our revolution and all that stuff. I think that's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate you letting me come on here and kind of vent publicly. I've been trying to get it out, so I mean,
If
this is
you
my
want to
outlet.
vent, this is the place for it.
Yeah.